I believe the candidate in the House is Mr. Joseph EKALALE IMONI.
Yes.
But before we continue, this is an extension of the House and policies remain. We'll have to start with the word of prayer. Let's pray. Almighty God, whom in your wisdom and goodness have appointed the offices of leaders and county assemblies for the welfare of society and just government of the people, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor as your servant, whom you have been pleased to call into the performance of important duties in this county. Let your blessing descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our county and of those whose interest you have committed to our child. I want to request a oath of secrecy that are taken.
I, Joseph EKALALE IMONI, do swear by the Almighty God that everything that I shall say in this approval hearing shall be the truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Mr. Joseph, Mr. Joseph, you have been nominated for the position of County Chief for Environment and Climate Change. And before we continue, we want to do some self-introduction of honorable members and members of this committee, beginning from Honorable Amoyong.
Thank you, Chair. I am Honorable Mark Akaramadyon, MCL Bremaho. I'm also a member of this particular committee. Thank you.
Honorable Chair, members and the public, EKALALE IMONI Michael, member of County Assembly, Captain, a member of this committee, this panel. Thank you.
Honorable Chair, I'm Abdi Fattah Ibey Kapua, MCA Kaling, Third Ward, Deputy Majority Leader, a member of this committee.
Thank you, Chair, my name is Eliud, a member of County Assembly representing Kapma Town Municipality, and a member of this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hassan. This is Nasken Willie, MCL of Reconciliation, member of this particular committee.
Selina Iloko, Special Elect, Turkana West, Kakuma, Member, Committee Award.
Chair, I am Marian Kapwan. I am Special Elect to the Township Board, and I am the chair of this committee.
For the secretariat part, I wish to request our clerk workers to take us through the secretariat membership presently.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and everyone here. The secretariat in this committee are the following: myself, Tabo, and Kevin Akeru. Both of us are clerk assistants to this committee. We have a sergeant at arm who is known by the name Willie Lokeri. Is there, and we have Kulal Ezekiel, is a research officer attached to this department and this committee. There's Mark Mekede, the one in front there, leading the team with the photography, is the media person in the committee. There's Geoffrey Kebo, that is our answered officer. Thank you very much. God bless.
Before we continue, I want to make some communication. First, I wish to welcome all to this meeting, members of the Committee of Water Services, Environment and Resources, members of the public, and the nominee County Chief Officer. Honorable members, the position of the Chief Officer is part of the executive appointments contemplated in Section 45 of the County Government Act number 17 of 2012, and the County Assembly is therefore mandated to vet and approve the appointment to the respective portfolios. Honorable members, as you are all aware, the vetting process is approximated to take at most 1 hour and 30 minutes or less for each nominee. According to the Public Appointment Act, County Assembly Approval Act 2017, Section 5(1), the nominee was notified to appear before the relevant secretarial committee of the County Assembly. In adherence to Public Appointment, County Assembly Approval Act 2017, Section 6(2), the clerk of the County Assembly gave out the notification of nomination on Friday, 7th April 2023 on the Daily Nation newspaper. Section 7(4), the clerk notified the candidate of the time and place for holding the approval hearing. Honorable members, according to Section 16 of Ethics and Integrity Act, to read together with County Assembly of Turkana Standing Order number 101, any member who is likely to be conflicted as to declare the nature of interest, whether personal, proprietary, close membership member, or a member wishes to speak on any other matter in which the member has a personal interest, shall first declare the interest, and the member will neither score nor vision out of the vetting venue. These proceedings are open to members of the public, and since they are live on HME Radio, the official YouTube channel. Similarly, I would like to draw the attention of the members of the public that during the vetting process, they are required to maintain silence, switch off their phones, or have them on silent mode. All are required to minimize any unnecessary movement that is likely to distract the committee or nominee. The sergeant at arms is under strict instructions who flout these orders. I want to make a plea to the nominee to take the shortest amount of time to complete the task at hand. Be precise and to the point when responding to questions from honorable members. Thank you very much. My name is Honorable James Ken, the chairman of this committee. Mr. Joseph EKALALE IMONI, I believe you are well prepared. This committee has placed you with some water there, a notebook, and if you require more than one, we can give you. As earlier communicated, the honorable members who are members of this committee will ask you some questions, and I request that you be very precise to the point. I want to begin by introductory questions. Kindly, Mr. Joseph, tell us about yourself, indicating your academic qualifications, competence, and skills, as well as your work experience. Secondly, what is your financial net worth? State your income sources, both current and deferred. And thirdly, your understanding, what does the portfolio entail, and why do you think you are the best candidate for this position?
Through the chair, I want to thank this committee of the Assembly for giving me an opportunity to present myself here before you. And I'm going straight to make a presentation based on the request by the chair. My name is Joseph EKALALE IMONI. I'm from Kakuma Ward of Turkana West constituency and Turkana West sub-county. And as far as my academic life is concerned, I'm a graduate with a Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Nairobi, where I graduated in 1997, on 1st of December 1997. My early academic life, I went to primary school in Kakuma. I went to Kakuma Mixed between 1981 and 1986. I went to Kakuma Harrison Primary School, famously known as Nomadic, where I joined in I studied between 86 and 87. That's class 7 and 8. I did my KCB there in 1987. After which I joined Lodwar High School, Form 1 to Form 4 between 1988 to 1991. I am the class of 91 from Lodwar High School, from where I proceeded to join the University of Nairobi, which I began by listing. As to my working life, upon graduation from the University of Nairobi on 1st of December 1997, I was employed by the Lutheran World Federation, Department of World Service, LWF/DWS, in Kakuma Refugee Camp for the Kakuma Refugee Assistance Program as a field monitor, then a logistics assistant. That was between 97 and 98 October. Then I was transferred to Nairobi, office of DWS, where I was attached in the El Nino floods response of that year, where the coast region was worst affected. I was assigned to Bura in Tana River district then. But I was supporting the main office also on logistic matters, supporting South Sudan operations. So I remained there from October until the following year, when I was moved to South Sudan as a field monitor in Rumbek County with the Lutheran World Federation. I worked between 1998 and 2002 with LWF in South Sudan. Then my contract came to an end in 2002. Then I took a break of 1.5 years. Then I joined the World Food Program. I joined the World Food Program in June 2004. I was posted to Capoeira as a senior project assistant. I worked in Capoeira from 2004 to 2007. Then the contract with the World Food Program ended. I came again for a 1-year break. Then in 2008, I was again re-employed by the Lutheran World Federation and posted to Garissa, where I was assigned responsibilities as a camp management officer in the Dadaab refugee camp of the camps in northeastern Kenya. I worked there for like 6 months in my new reassignment with LWF. Then I was again employed by the World Food Program in Kenya now. And then I was posted to Mombasa, where I worked in all the districts in the coast, from Kwale, Taita Taveta, Malindi, Kilifi, Lamu, as a field monitor. So basically after that, my stint with them, with the ended in 2013, September. Then I joined KK Security as a deputy project manager in Lokichar with the Talo oil field project, Talo oil operations. I remained with that operation, KK Security, that is Kenya Kazi Services Limited, for a period of close to 4 years. Then I was appointed as a political advisor to the first governor in 2017, February, a few months to the general election. I served as a political advisor to governor for 1 year. Then I applied in the second term of the governor for consideration as a county chief officer, which was successful. Then I was onboarded. I was employed as a county chief officer between 22nd February 2018 and around 22nd February 2021. That's around 3 years. I served as a county chief officer in 2 dockets. First, I was placed in administration and disaster management, and then from there I was moved to the office of the governor, where I spent most of that time, almost 2.5 years in the office of the governor, half a year in administration and disaster management. That's that about my professional line, the working life. In income sources, I don't have so much, so many streams of income. Over the time I have worked with the NGOs that I have just listed, the corporate world, the county level, I was able to put up 2 modest businesses. That is guest houses in Kakuma, sorry. So I have guest houses in Kakuma. I have Narus guest house and Prestige. And I have a residence also in Kakuma. And those are my main income sources. And I have a few vehicles. And my net worth arising from these income sources, according to calculations, comes to around between 80 and 82 million is my net worth as we sit here. To be plus or minus a few million shillings. And then my understanding of this portfolio, the portfolio we're talking about is environment and climate change in the current Ministry of Tourism. Having been in the government as earlier stated, and having been a student, as you can see in my academic papers of geography, where I looked at various issues related to climate change and the environment, I feel I have the tech know-how, the requisite knowledge, the experience to be able to bring into focus matters that are under this docket in terms of environment, in terms of taking care of the monster that's rearing its head on the world now, which is more urgent in the name of climate change. So I believe I have what it takes to take care of this docket. I don't know whether I'm required to get into any specifics at this level.
I think you are well, your background is well articulated, and first, before I give to other members, I wish to request if you can provide us with your national ID. I want to request Honorable Amajong to take his platform.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, for allowing me to put some technical questions to the nominee. What experience do you have in environmental management, climate change, adaptation, and mitigation? How do you plan to use this experience to address environmental challenges in the county? Number two, what sustainable environmental practices inform this committee? A, what strategies will you implement together with other stakeholders such as community groups and civil society organizations to promote sustainable environmental practices in the county? B, how you will engage with government agencies at the national level to ensure that the county's government and climate change concerns are addressed.
Thank you very much, Honorable Amajong. In terms of my experience in environmental management, the government is one entity acting together for the common good. So, in my first experience in government, both as a political advisor, as a county chief officer in charge of administration and disaster management, and a county chief officer responsible for the office of the governor, I think I got a first-hand experience on matters environment in as far as collective government action is concerned. Because while serving in those two capacities in government, in those two portfolios, everything rested with the top, and the rest was acting on delegation. So every other action, like for instance, the floods that hit this county in 2018, 2019, during those protracted rains, and the droughts that followed, the long devastating droughts. I was part of the county field teams that put in place plans to mitigate the impacts of these vagaries of weather arising from swings in climate in terms of adverse effects of climate change and changes in the environment, on how to give humanitarian interventions to those who were worst affected in terms of destruction of livelihoods, in terms of destruction of residences, in terms of dislocation or displacement, and basically that experience and the knowledge gained from that period in government goes a long way in equipping me with the necessary know-how to handle this particular assignment. So basically, that is the background that I possess that's government related on matters and on sustainable environmental practices and strategies to help community groups, engagement with government agencies at the national level. Strategies for sustainable environment practice revolves around minimizing human activities that have a potential to harm the environment, disrupt livelihoods, and in the long run escalate climate change. These practices, namely charcoal burning, felling of trees for whatever reason, construction and fuel, human activities along riparian areas, and use of fuels for whatever reason, transport, industry, are those practices that harm the environment. So if we can create mitigatory interventions to make sure that these practices with the potential negative impact on the environment are reduced and potentially eradicated, then we'll be contributing to sustainable care of our environment. And then on engagement with government agencies at the national level, there are those agencies that are working in collaboration with the county government on matters environment and matters climate change. And when we talk of climate change, we talk of a cross-cutting issue, an issue that in some aspects like HIV, AIDS, Ebola, is like these pandemics that have just sprung from the blues and are causing great concern to humanity. And concerted action is required from all players, be it civil society, be it government, be it development partners. This is a cross-cutting issue, but it is heavy on some sectors, like sectors of food production, be it fishing, water. Climate change is catching up with these sectors, and if the mitigatory measures are not taken, then we're thrown out of business. So we have things like NDMA, we have NARIC, we have the National Ministry in charge, and all these are organs at national level that we can work with. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Joseph, as I said earlier, I know you have a lot to say, and you have length answers to some questions, but I request you be very brief and you summarize your question, your answers, so that at least you can be able to accommodate time to other questions.
Okay, Chair, that's well noted.
And now I want to request Honorable Kipata take platform.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Mr. Joseph EKALALE IMONI. I have two questions with you. First, what is your strategy for ensuring that environmental and impact assessment are conducted before major development projects are approved? What's your strategy for ensuring that environmental and impact assessments are conducted before major development projects are approved? Second, how do you plan to raise awareness among the public on the importance of the environmental protection and climate change adaptation and mitigation? I repeat, how do you plan to raise awareness among the public on the importance of the environmental protection and climate change adaptation and mitigation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa. On the first question, environmental impact assessment before major development is conducted. What's my strategy? Here, I think the strategy is multi-pronged and multi-sectoral, and it depends on what kind of major development we are talking about. It could be a big construction project, either by national government, county government, development partners, investors, or any other player in the development world. So I think there are permissions, licenses, and or rather permits that need to be in place to ensure that environmental concerns are well taken care of before any meaningful development is undertaken. And these licenses and permits or permissions have been put in place to make sure that each and every step that's taking care of environmental conservation protection has been addressed by that particular individual or entity. And they also county departments that are charged to act together with my docket to make sure that this is in place. The necessary licenses, permits, authorizations are in place to make sure that the national and the county level are acting in unison to ensure activities of investors, of government entities are not harmful to the environment and instead promote the environment. So I will work hand in hand with the Ministry of Public Works because some of the licensing is done there. My ministry, the technical documents within the ministry, will also work hand in hand with the Ministry of Health and those others which might become of use to ensure that matters relating to the environment are well taken care of before we grant a go-ahead for implementation of major projects. Because where such action has been missing, we ended up with catastrophic outcomes for the environment. You settle people only to realize that there was no plan for fuel. They finish your trees. You settle people or make an irrigation scheme only to realize that people downstream will go without water. So those are the things that strategy of bringing everybody on board at the national, at the county level, and the investors or the public, private sector on board will take care of. Then awareness among public on environmental and environmental protection and climate change, adaptation and mitigation. This calls to mind the importance of public involvement, public awareness, public consent, public participation on any matter, any issue that affects the general well-being of a larger number of people, of the so-called public. How I will go about this is to ensure that on any undertaking that comes for public involvement under this docket of environment and climate change, we follow the prescriptions on public participation under the public participation, legal requirements and regulations, and reach out to the various audiences, to the various forums or fora with the intent of what needs to be done to make sure that everybody is aware and knowledgeable of what they need to do as individuals, as community groups, as governments to protect and conserve the environment and to ensure that adapt to climate change and mitigate the impacts of climate change. And the audiences can be reached through public gatherings through radio broadcasts, through town hall kind of meetings, through our administrators or administrative units at the lower level of the village or the sub-county, through the faith organizations. All these are players who are daily in touch with the communities more than even us at the top here. And that way, these messages on public awareness, on environmental protection, climate change adaptation, and mitigation are reached out there. Asante.
Rababdi, any follow-up question?
Chair, I have no question to ask.
Now, I want to welcome Honorable Mary.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'd like to ask you this question. We are all residents of this municipality, and we all come from this municipality, and you have said, you have talked of Kakuma. You are a resident of Kakuma. And there is one thing that is a menace in all these municipalities and all the upcoming towns, considering the fact that population has grown and our population comes with waste disposal. We have a problem as things that we do. We have a problem with waste disposal. Now, my question is, how are you going to, what difference are you going to put in the waste management? Because everywhere you go in the urban setting, you find heaps of waste, you find air pollution. At times there is a tendency of people banning the waste disposals. And you see, when you ban this waste disposal, some are hazardous. Now, the question is, how are you going to improve on this? How are you going to improve on this so that we don't see litter lying all over, and we don't go and we find burning of litter leading to air pollution? The second question is, our people are not aware that noise, excessive noise is termed as noise pollution. And this is a major thing in major towns in Turkana. What policy are you going to propose to the county government to curb noise pollution in residential areas? You find a tendency where, like our urban setting, there is no designated areas where bars are supposed to be. A bar can be placed anywhere, and they can do anything they want. They can put there is no control. Anybody can open the radio, blast it, and there is no control. What policies are you going to put in place to curb all this? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa Mary. Yeah, I come from Kakuma municipality, where matters of waste management and noise pollution is really a big challenge. And the same applies to this municipality as well. And in the docket, I'm placing a bid to win your favor to be endorsed. I think I will want to bring a difference in terms of waste management, so that waste management is done professionally and in a manner that enhances public good, so that waste management or waste handling does not expose the public to more harm. as it is now, the waste management undertaking, I think, is split into two ministries or dockets of government. The waste management, waste disposal sites, I think are under the docket of lands for a good reason. And then waste management enforcement practices lie with the environment directorate or in this docket of this ministry. So what needs to be done is if the waste disposal areas cannot be migrated for whatever reason to sit in the docket of environment and climate change, then the docket of environment and climate change should be given powers to police and implement, or rather enforce matters, waste management, waste collection, waste disposal. We can be given muscles to police. We can be assigned an enforcement capacity so that any individual, any entity or business that generates waste, rubbish, litter, we ensure through our enforcement capacity resident in the docket of environment and climate change. We ensure that every entity that generates litter that leads to heaps of rubbish in our major towns cooperates with the necessary dockets or entities of government and the public and the private sector. Those are doing business in garbage collection and disposal to ensure that the garbage is properly collected, centrally placed, and transported for incineration or dumping as appropriate in gazetted sites. As we speak, I don't think there's no non-gazetted waste dumping site that I know of. There's one around past EKALALE, but I don't know how effective it is. The same applies to Kakuma. There's one that's being put in place by a development partner, and it's yet even to be operationalized. But the municipalities are churning tons of litter, rubbish every other day through their activities. So that kind of enforcement muscle is all that is required for a beginning to ensure that the docket takes care of that. And then second, excessive noise. Excessive noise. Excessive noise is terrible. All the villages. The bar plays loud music until wee hours of the morning. And the children are there willing to go to school in the morning. And there are sick people, there are elderly people in the neighborhoods of such noisy places. And then there are certain classes of border that have come nowadays. He does a modification of the exhaust. When he passes by, you think it's a plane that is taking off, but it's just a border. These are things practices that are denying other people of comfort as enshrined in the Constitution in Article 42 on the environment. Because we are entitled to a clean and healthy environment, all of us. Clean and healthy in all aspects. So the legislation on loud music, on where to place bars, on the decibels of the sound of the sound of music, or the noise that comes out of music is what needs to be in place. We need to order our planning such that Maba are in a particular place, then they close at a certain time, the discos play to a certain, the decibels are at 5 or below and stop at around 10 or 11, something.
Joseph, I'm seeing you are drying off, and yet you have a lot of water with you. These members are prepared for you. They have a lot of patience for you. So take enough water as we prepare. So I want to request Honorable Willie Napuyo
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I think my question comes, we have what we call LOCA. That is Government Financing Locally Led Climate Action Program. So, and this one is derived from national government. That is National Climate Change Action Plan. With a strong county lens, looking at both enabling environment activities and a system of initiative for local climate action. So my question comes, as the former chief officer for the previous administration, what do you think is delaying release of funds in the county? Number two, what will you do to fast track the process if any required by the National Treasury? As the former chief officer for the previous administration, what do you think is delaying the release of funds in the county? Number two, what will you do to fast track the process if any required by the National Treasury?
Thank you, Mheshimiwa. On FLOCA and delay in release of funds for financing locally led climate action, as I said earlier, it's a multi-stakeholder forum where the individual actions of the various entities involved build the bigger picture. And if it's legislation, input of the various stakeholders is paramount. As a chief officer in the previous administration, I can't really pinpoint why there was a delay in release of funds for financing locally led climate action. Because until then, or when I exited government in February 2021, the legislation, the requisite legislation had not been concluded. And I suspect this might have been one reason why funding was not forthcoming. Because legislation, like for these other funds, has to be in place so that funding can follow. And with the act in place now, I think maybe the guidelines and regulations will follow or are already in place. Then the funding is unlocked, put in place. Secondly, on fast tracking, on release of funds, I think funds are readily there. Whenever, now that it's a fund that manages matters climate change. All I need to do on my part to fast track the process is to make sure that the entities from ward level, sub-county, county level are acting in unison to put in place all the necessary plans, to put in place all the necessary documentation that is required at the top here to facilitate of funds for environment and climate change activities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Michael. Michael. Kale. Take this question.
Mr. Joseph EKALALE IMONI, you are aware of Chapter 6 of the laws of Kenya on integrity. now that you are undergoing this process, and perhaps that you may be given, may be approved for this position, and so a lot is expected by the public. And as a practice, in most cases, we realize that public officers perform their duties with mixed conflict of interests as they execute their duties. Now, assuming that you will be considered as a successful candidate to serve in this position, what are some of the measures that you would employ to curb matters related to corruption associated with procurement and tendering processes in your department? 2, do you own any company, be it private or public? B, how will you handle a matter in which you have a direct or an indirect interest and likely to compromise your level of decision making? Question 3. Have you ever been mentioned negatively in any report by a parliamentary committee or an independent commission on matters related to corruption? Is there any previous case or ongoing case against you pending before a court of law? Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you so much, Honorable Ekale, for the many questions. Yes, it's true. Interest, nature, human experiences, not only in government, even within the family or in any setup you find yourself in, and same to corruption. Now, if I successfully win endorsement in this docket, fighting corruption and procurement and tendering will not be anything new that I'm coming face to face with for the first time, because I've handled the procurement successfully in the past without any adverse listing from any of the oversight quarters, including this house. And therefore, I will maintain the same way of doing things, the same manner of dealing with the process of procurement or tendering. Now that the process is even automated, I think the automation of the process in itself has greatly reduced the chances of officers getting conflicted and having their conflict interfere with the proper running and awarding of tenders. Because if it is the threshold of below 5 million, they call it request for quotations, it's already in the system. The moment you submit your bid, it reflects in the system. You have submitted, so submitted. It goes to the next level. You see who have gone to that level, who has been knocked out. The next level, the same. So the digitalization of the process by government has played a key role in bringing down the incidence of conflict of interest and corruption. Maybe what an officer can do at the level of county chief officer, who is overseeing other officers, is to fill the void that computerization cannot do. To get to know that on the CR12, who are there as the directors of this particular entity. Because sometimes you find that you are dealing with the very same people who are around you, but they are riding behind the CR12. It's the same people. Your director or your other man in procurement could be the CR12 for Oncho, hiding behind there, and at the same time submitting documents to you for approval for authorization for payment. So that's the void you feel, and you have to be true to yourself to make sure that you speak to that issue and call it out. That so and so, this is a conflict of interest. I cannot entertain handling this document now that I smell Arufiapo Nyuma ya Ikatazi. How come? And then that is the bit we are going to handle in terms of reining in on procurement, corruption and irregularities. And also timeliness. When you prepare the procurement plan, you make sure that everything comes before the last quarter, that you submit maybe things that need technical guidance to public works in good time. And you make sure that the loopholes where people request for finances from investors, from people who are coming to work for government, you request for this and that in order to support them. You rein in on those things, kill that completely. Because unless we're expressly stated that this needs to be done and it's a requirement from that particular person or entity. And that is that. The process is nowadays above board, and there's no longer so much paperwork where you sink in the paperwork to the extent you lose sight of the bigger picture. The paperwork is computerized, and when it's computerized, it's compressed. You can compare and contrast and quickly draw parallels and get where there's a problem, and then enforced by the personal knowledge of who is who and is where. And ownership of any company, I currently own no active company that I know of. I'm just, it's called single entrepreneur, what do you call it in business? Sole proprietor. I'm a sole proprietor of those entities that I named earlier. Otherwise, I don't own any company. I've never awarded myself a tender or been awarded a tender by anybody, and it has never been in my interest to execute any tender. And direct or indirect, what was that?
How will you handle a matter in which you have a direct or indirect interest and likely to compromise your level of decision making?
Asante Mheshimiwa. The law requires that in the eventuality that you as the officer presiding over a matter is confronted by personal interest on the handling of that matter, one, you declare that one of the people who has appeared before this panel, where I am listed as one of the panelists, is my brother. You declare that such is the case, or you declare that this entity that has bid for provision of goods and services is owned by my brother or by my wife. You do that declaration in the requisite documents. And then secondly, you step down if it is an interview process, or if it is the assessment or the evaluation of that bid. You declare your interest in writing, and then you step out of the process, so that fairness and justice is not only appears to be done, but is done to the exercise or undertaking. And then the next one, I ever mentioned negatively by a parliamentary committee or independent commission? No, I have not been negatively mentioned. And lastly, I don't have any active case before a court of law. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Lastly, I want to request Honorable Willie
Thank you, Chair. Having listened to the nominee answering questions and the question that is before me, I beg to forego this question as it's seemingly been answered in introduction question number 3. Subsequently, also answered in the technical section of the questionnaire number 1 and 5. It is all about the contrast in experience and various positions. If that abides, Your Honorable Chair, I beg to forego that question.
Thanks for that consideration. Before, I want to request the members if any person or any member has a follow-up question, especially Mary, on uncontrolled noise and pollution. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. It was just a joiner. When you were answering question 6 about poor waste disposal, you talked about the waste disposal being anchored in 2 departments. Now, I just wanted to ask if there is, in any case, there is a possibility of you proposing that the waste disposal be placed in 1 department so that to avoid the blame games, like 1 department takes the full ownership of waste disposal and waste management. Is there a possibility of such a proposal being placed in the top of the House for a policy to be created to shift the waste disposal to be squared in 1 department, other than in the departments of lands, the municipality, and now the design?
Yeah, I think for efficiency and effectiveness in management of waste, it is desirous, in my opinion, that the whole activity is domiciled in 1 department, right from the waste management sites aspect, the waste management enforcement, the waste management legislation, and waste management. Everything waste management should fall within 1 docket for it to be effectively and efficiently implemented. So this is a concern at the moment out there, but I can't say for a fact for now that it's something to answer here. It's something that needs to have many heads come together. The technical, be it in the sense of the engineering aspect of the collection, the revenue aspect of the collection, and the public health aspect of the collection, and the legislative aspect of the collection, of waste management. All these heads need to do some brainstorming, and where need be reach out to the public on how to best ways to go about it, and bring the most preferred way out to the executive, and possibly reach here for the necessary legal muscle to be able to implement that. So at the moment, the status quo remains, but it's one of the things I'll look around to see if it's possible, or if granted this chance and brought on board.
Any other member? Follow-up question? Mr. Joseph, I hear you saying that you are so much informed of the Procurement and Disposal Act 2015 regulation. Assuming you are approved by this Honorable County Assembly, the position of the Chief Officer briefly explain to this committee what you will do if you appointed the appointing authority, and that is the governor in this case, whom you have pledged allegiance, to ask you to influence award of a tender to one of his supporters without following method of procurement.
Thank you, Chair. I think that is just a wild imagination, because knowing the person of the current governor, that is one thing he doesn't entertain. I don't see him even imagining asking me such a question. It won't arise. And in any eventuality, if appointed to this position and I take allegiance to the Constitution and to the governor, I do so on the grounds that I will provide him the best advice on how to run affairs of government if so asked. And if this came up in the most unlikely scenario that this ever occurred, I will just explain what the law says about the same, which I know he knows, and that is the reason why I believe this won't come up. But the law of procurement is in black and white, it is clear, and having been with the chair in the previous administrations, he knows how this nominee before you stood in such cases in the past, and the same will remain a fact, something.
I think that's the end of the questions, and that before we release you, kindly, do you have anything that maybe this committee has forgotten that you need to tell us before you leave?
Well, I think this is a very able committee, and in your wisdom, I don't see anything that's significant that's been left out. You've been thorough, and I thank you for that.
I want to request the Sergeant at Arms to hand over the documents of the nominee, and kindly, Joseph, check to ensure that all your documents are in place before.
Thanks so much.
You check your document. You can't just rush to go. Just take your documents. We don't want you to say this committee has remained with any documents. If the documents are there, I want to thank you for appearing, and therefore request the Sergeant at Arms to escort the nominee out.
Thank you.
Members of the public, you are free to